Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for stopping by and registering for our first time buyer and our veteran home buyer seminar. My name is Keith Campbell with Keith and Sheila Realty Group, powered by LPT Realty. And joining me as my guest is Tyler Carlson with U Mortgage, who we pretty much use exclusively. What we want to do is keep it under an hour and just give you the real meat and potatoes of getting qualified and understanding the process, the roadmap to buying a house. My wife and I have been doing this for almost 14 years. We sell quite a few houses. 91% of our clients are veterans or active duty. That's our niche, which is why Tyler's probably the top VA originating lender in the state, and that's why we use him. Great communication. And we try to do the same on our end as far as communicating with our clients. We work the entire San Antonio metro area. And Tyler, I know you work all San Antonio. Where else do you offer your services?
Yeah, so we're a nationwide lender, so I can take care of folks in 46 states. So I hold multiple licenses myself, and yeah, I could still take care of someone even in the states I don't. So there isn't anywhere I can't help anyone.
Awesome. So the first thing you want to do if you're thinking about buying a house, now if you watch my videos, I say go talk to Tyler first. You need to know what you can afford, what your budget is going to be, and don't be house poor. I mean, we want to sell you as much house as you want, but we also don't want you to call us in 6 months or a year and go, I need to sell my house. I can't afford it.
Yeah, because that undo button is very expensive, and we just want to avoid it too. Because like Keith and I both will tell you, like we're here to help you for the long term, and if we sell you something that's going to be too expensive for you, you're likely not going to call us back if we don't advise you with what's actually best for you. And at the end of the day, we don't do any of this for money. It's more so just to make sure you're taken care of properly.
Absolutely. And that's a great point. My job and my wife's job is to help you understand value of home ownership, help you understand what the roadmap, the process is like, understand cost of ownership. Buying a house is one step in your expense to maintain the home. How old is it? How insulated is it? How old are the main components? How old is the roof? What's the neighborhood like? What's the safety like? The schools like? Amenities like within the HOA amenities? Our job is to give you as much advice as we can give without steering you and without making the decision for you. We feel like we're going to educate you and empower you to make the best decision you can for your family. Tyler's responsibility is to make sure you get the best loan you can get. And there's a lot of loans out there. And if I don't know if you want to go ahead and talk about what the options are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like Keith has said, there's 1,000 different places you can get a loan. My job is to try to be the best option for you, not just making sure that you get the best terms, which is obviously very important, but also make sure that you feel like you're being educated and taken care of and not just being sold something. At the end of the day, again, like I said before, I don't do anything for money. I'm plenty busy. I don't need to try to sell you on something. I just want to be an advisor for you. Make sure you feel comfortable because buying a house, not something to be taken lightly. It's a very big responsibility. It's the biggest purchase many people will have in their entire life. And so it's very important to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident moving forward in everything. And when you have Keith explain what to look out for when purchasing a house, and then also when I walk through like what kind of costs you should expect to incur when you own a house and things like that through a mortgage. Like that's just a recipe to make sure that you have a full understanding of what you're jumping into. Because home ownership is a wonderful thing, but it's even better when you fully understand every aspect of it.
Absolutely. That's great advice. So, as far as the pre-approval and budgeting process, Tyler is going to look at all your finances. He's going to look at your options, what kind of loans you qualify for. Now, he does a ton of VA. We do a ton of VA. VA is, in my opinion, the best loan product out there because it has no PMI. Uh, there are restrictions. The VA doesn't have restrictions necessarily on credit score, debt to income, but individual lenders do. And that's where Tyler has some leeway to do things that maybe other VA lenders won't. And I will tell you from my own experience, I've seen VA lenders, the bigger the name, the more they advertise, the more they charge. And sometimes their rates competitive, but their loan fees are ridiculous. And they get away with it because they hide them in the loan. They roll them back into the loan, which you can do with a VA. And I've seen people pay, they'll show me their closing disclosure and they paid six, seven, $8,000 in loan fees. And on top of it, because it was rolled in, they're paying interest on it. That's not a good plan. I think Tyler has like a flat processing fee and that's it. So why don't you talk about the pre-approval process and the difference between pre-approval, pre-qualification?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing I want to jump into, just based on something you said. So the only fee that can actually be financed on a purchase is going to be the funding fee. Every other cost that a lender is going to be charging you is either going to be paid by you or through seller concessions. But of course, you want to make sure those fees are as low as possible while the rate still makes sense. Um, but first step in trying to figure out what you can kind of afford and what you're approved for is to talk to me. And so what I'll do is we're going to jump on a phone call and we're just going to dive into what your situation is. So I want to make sure that everything I present to you is tailored to what's important to you because people have different goals, whether it's I want the nicest house for the cheapest amount or I want the lowest payment possible to stay under BAH, whatever it may be. Everybody has different goals. And so that's where we jump on a phone call first. I'm not going to just send you to some application without talking to you. It's I want to get to know you. I want to build our relationship because again, I'm here for the long haul. This isn't going to be a one and done for me. I want to help you on the purchase. I want to help you on any refinances. I want to help you if you get moved somewhere else. I'm here for the long haul. So we're going to take a look at what your long-term goals with real estate is, what real estate means to you, because some people just buy houses to have a place to live. Some people buy houses to build financial freedom. Everybody has different goals, and so it's very important to make sure what we do today lines up with our long-term goals. So after that phone call, that's when we start the fun part of getting you pre-approved. I send you a quick link to do an application, or if you need help, I can help you do it over the phone. It's no stress, no pressure. It's 15 minutes. There's no wrong answers on it. It's very easy to use, and they'll just ask you things about your personal information, your employment, where you get your income, your assets, things like that. And then the very important part, a lot of people think they're pre-approved, but don't do this, is I need to see documentation. Because if you talk to a lender for 10 minutes and they send you a letter, that's not a pre-approval. That is just what's called a pre-qualification. It means nothing because they haven't verified stuff. If I just did pre-qualifications, I wouldn't be in business because people tell me stuff and one thing pops up the complete opposite all the time. And so by getting documents, it allows me to make sure I do my job correctly, make sure everything's buttoned up and tidied for you. I get your income dialed in, take a look at all your debts, make sure everything works up. Because when I send you a pre-approval letter, that means we're closing on the house, no ifs, ands, or buts. I don't want it to be where we get you under contract, you're excited to buy a house. I'm like, oh, sorry, I didn't collect documents, and now you can't buy the house. That happens all the time. So it's important to make sure that we get everything buttoned in. And I know documents may sound like scary, but it's really simple stuff like pay stubs, LESs, W-2s, driver's license, just simple stuff like that. I just need to verify what's on the application. And then from there, I'll use my experience to sort of see what the underwriter is going to ask for. Because one of the ways I make everything so seamless is to tackle what needs to be done up front. So if I take a look at your file and I see the underwriter is going to ask for this document, I'm going to ask for you. I'm going to ask it for from you up front, so that way we can just be ahead of the game. And because I try to think like an underwriter, so that way I can kind of tell you what is going to be needed up front. So that way, when we submit the loan and get it under contract, there's really not too much paperwork after. So yeah, I mean, once I go ahead and get everything all dialed in, I'll let you know what your max approval amount is. And for example, if you have a budget of $2,000 a month, but I send you an approval letter for $600,000, definitely doesn't mean you have to spend that much. My job's just to let you know what your options are if you want to creep that up a little bit, if you find that you need to. But at the end of the day, budget is the most important thing to me. And so we'll sort of backtrack it based on what you want to spend. And depending on the area and situation, I could give you a pretty good ballpark of what range we need that Keith needs to set the search up for. As if you're trying to stay under 2,000 a month, we need to put that search to 225, 250 depending on taxes and areas and stuff like that, just to make sure that you and Keith aren't looking at houses that your budget doesn't allow for. Because if you fall in love with the house that's $400 a month more than you want to spend, that does nobody any good.
So speaking of that, let me pop up our okay, I can barely see it. So this is what I should have brought this up a little earlier. Kind of popped down there, talks about me, talks about Tyler. We are, if you register for the webinar, which you probably have if you're watching it, you're going to get an email with one of our home buyer guides right here. 28-page document explains the entire process of selling a house, of buying a house and everything that goes along with that. Part of our goal today is to kind of demystify the Texas home buying process from consultation to closing, explain how qualifying for a mortgage and avoid common pitfalls, share realtor and lender insights. Some of this we've already started. I was a little late bringing this up. Provide actionable tools and free resources for each of you. This is our agenda. Uh, we already talked about the buyer consultation. We talked about the qualifying. We talked about the pre-approval. And he said, we want to get you pre-approved so that we can know what your budget is, so we can set you up on a search. Now, let's talk about MLS versus syndicated websites. A lot of people use Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes, those type of websites. Nothing wrong with those. However, you need to understand they are syndicated. They are connected to the MLS, but they go through the MLS data goes through their algorithm and it gets changed. So I've literally had people call me and say, "Hey, I saw you have this house for sale. You're the listing agent. I'd like to see it." And they tell me the address, and I look and I'm like, "We closed on that 3 weeks ago or a month ago." And they're like, "Well, it's still on Zillow." I go look, and sure enough, it is. That's a glitch in their algorithm. So what I say is, if you want to use those syndicated sites, you go ahead and use them, but then go to our site, which I will share here real quick and show you how easy it is to use it and verify the information. Okay, you can see as soon as you pull the site up, it's going to have a home search. You type in an address or a zip code. Let's just say an address. We have a house for sale at 1860 Deer Trail. Whoops. In Floresville. And there you can verify, it's a new listing, but if it says pending or active option, it's not available anymore. And if you want to go back to your syndicated site, you're very welcome to do that. So that's kind of what we want to get you set up on the MLS search through our website. Our website pulls from 5 different MLSs. You're going to get very accurate information, and as you like the home, it gives me a notification. Tyler looked at such and such address and he saved it or likes it. It just helps us narrow down the search, helps us get more information. Because right now, just to give you an idea of the market, there are twice as many homes for sale right now as there normally is per month. Prior to 2022, we would have 6,000 active listings per month. Since mid 2022, we're averaging 9 to 13,000 listings per month. So there's a lot of inventory. So there's more to look at if you're an active buyer. So tips for viewing homes. The cost of ownership. We talked about this a little bit. Evaluating neighborhoods, HOA amenities, schools, area safety. Part of my job and my wife's job is not only have we been realtors for almost 14 years, I was a home inspector for 13 years, inspected almost 4,000 houses. So I know how to spot red flags. Now, I'm not doing an inspection for you, but I'm going to recognize certain things that I know are going to be a real problem, especially with maybe a VA. A VA doesn't have a special inspection, but it does have some criteria on the appraisal that's different from some of the other loan products. One of them being conducive termite conditions. You have to have a termite inspection. You can't have rotted wood, peeling paint. You have to have operable heat, cooking. The structure has to be sound. The roof can't look like it's about to cave in any moment. Those kinds of things.
It has to be a livable home. Doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to
Right.
be updated. It just has to be a decently livable home.
Absolutely. And so, kind of going into that next step, once we get you on a search, you start getting houses. We take you out on showings. You're going to be ready to make an offer. You're going to find some house you fall in love with, and we want to make an offer. So, let's talk a little bit about making and negotiating an offer. I want to get the best deal I can for you. You've hired me at this point. My wife and I are not only your advocate, we're your fiduciary, which means we want to serve your best interests over making money. We're going to have some tactics we use. We're going to do a certain way we present the offer to the listing agent. We're going to have great communication. In fact, one of the things I like about Tyler is when I send the offer, I CC him in that email, and I might even send him a quick text, and he immediately calls that listing agent to tell them how qualified you are. And I can tell you when I'm on the listing side, That rarely happens. That's one of the things Tyler does that I really appreciate.
Yep, because at the end of the day, too, like you have to think about it from the seller's side. Whenever they accept your offer, they're basically not going to consider anything else. It's like when someone gets married, they're not going to entertain anybody else, and so you want to make sure that um, we're able to deliver on what we're saying because it sucks on the seller side to go through all the way through a transaction, then the deal fall apart due to financing. That happens all the time. And so what my job is to do is to make sure the seller and the listing agent feel super confident and know like, hey, if we accept Tyler and Keith's offer, we're getting into the finish line, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And that really sets the offer apart. I mean, I my favorite story when it was crazy during COVID, I had an offer that was competing with us that was a higher cash offer by $15,000, meaning the seller could have made 15 grand more and closed probably 10 days sooner than us, but they chose to work with us because I called the listing agent. I made sure that they felt comfortable and they would rather work with someone where they know the backstory a little bit versus an investor just buying the house to rent it out. And so the sellers chose us and our buyers got super lucky. So it definitely makes a huge impact.
Yeah, I have a similar story during COVID. We were representing some buyers and we were not even in the top five, but the listing agent is an agent I had done a couple of deals with in the past. And he called me up and said, "Look, I know what I'm getting with y'all. I'm really trying to talk my clients into going with y'all. Can y'all budge a little more? Get close enough that I can make this happen." And we did. And we were still like 7,000 under on a $350,000 house under the best offer. But because of our reputation, they pushed us because he knew there was going to be no nonsense. And by the way, not to promote Tyler, but we've never done a deal with Tyler where the financing fell apart.
Yep.
Zero times.
Yep. No, that's
I can't say that about USA. I can't say that about Veterans United. I can't say that about some other big ones. Chase Bank, Wells Fargo. Lots of deals have fallen apart, and sometimes we pull them out of there and take them to him. So let's talk about the option period in the home inspection. The option period is pretty unique to just Texas. And what that is, it's an unrestricted right that we negotiate for you to be able to terminate the contract, and the only thing you would lose financially is the option fee. Right now, that's about $10 a day. We normally do a 7 day option period. During COVID, I had clients paying $500 a day to try to make their offer stand out. Right now, it's $10 a day. That's when you get your home inspection. If it's a VA, that's when you get your WDI, your termite inspection. That's when we tell you, Sheila and I tell you, go to the neighborhood on a weekend, at night, during the day, and make sure this is the house you want to close on. We don't take lightly putting a house under contract, but we also know that how it looks if you looked at it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon may look way different Saturday afternoon or 7 p.m. on a weekday. Especially in some of these newer neighborhoods, the streets get very crowded. Maybe there's a loud neighbor next door. Safety, schools, amenities, those are kind of, you got to really focus on those. Don't focus on, oh, they have a loud dog, because that could go away very quickly. So during that option period, that's when you're going to make sure this is the one. And Tyler does not order the appraisal until we're out of the option period, so you don't get stuck paying appraisal fee for a house you may terminate on.
the only reason we would ever do that is if, let's say, we wrote some crazy 18-day
Right,
contract
right.
offer or something.
Yeah,
Then, like, hey, I need to order the appraisal as soon as possible.
right.
That's just a gamble that we take when trying to speed things up. But
And
most of the time, we wait until Keith gives me the green light, like, hey, nothing wrong with inspection. All negotiations are good. We're moving forward. Then I go ahead and order the appraisal.
absolutely. And we do communicate really well on that so that there's no, like, yeah, if you're trying to do a 15-day close or 20-day close, we're going to have to order the appraisal the day you go under contract. Um, as far as home inspection, never, ever buy a house without a home inspection.
Even if it's a new build.
Even, especially if it's new build. I can't tell you the number of, so the way they build houses now, they drywall whether the insulation's in the wall or not, in the ceiling or not, as far as the attic insulation. I can't, I won't get into all the stories, and both as an inspector and as a realtor, the stuff I've seen. but there is no perfect house. I inspected houses from 3.5 million down to 60,000. And believe it or not, the $3.5 million house had a lot of deficiencies and it was brand spanking new, 17,000 square foot house. And it had the builder had done a horrible job. And the owner was pretty excited that I found some of the things the way that works is we have a list of questions you can ask when you're hiring a home inspector. If you're working with us, we're going to give you a vetted list of inspectors. Most of those guys I've known 15 to 20 years. They're very experienced. They don't use alarmist language. They're not know-it-alls. They're not trying to show how smart they are. They use zip levels on the foundation. They use infrared cameras. They use moisture meters. They really do a thorough job. And just so you'll know, if you've never bought a house in Texas, Texas home inspection laws and standards are by far the toughest in the country. Not even close. California doesn't come close. New York, Florida, none of them. And you have to understand also, I want to give this caveat. We go by the national standards and codes. A municipality or an incorporated city can change the code. What we go by, the city of San Antonio may not, the city of Windcrest may not, the city of Cibolo may not. So keep that in mind. If the especially on even new construction, they say, look, we're not fixing that because the city doesn't require it. And remember, the codes change every 3 years, and no seller is required or obligated to bring something up to code. Now, if it's a major safety issue, major component, we want to negotiate that. But you can't nitpick and cherry pick the inspection. You don't want it done on your house when you sell it, trust me, and you don't want to do it to a buyer because it's going to make a very contentious environment. And I'm going to make sure you don't buy a house that's going to have a problem. Between my walking through it and you hiring a good home inspector and me evaluating their report, we're gonna get it squared away pretty easily. Repairs and appraisal and insurance. Okay, so repairs, appraisal, insurance. Depending on the type of repair, I very rarely ask a seller to repair something. And here's why. They're going to do it the cheapest, fastest way they can. Depending on how the loan structure is, what your financial situation is, we may have no choice but to do it that way. But I prefer to get seller credits and then you do the work to your standards. Now, there may be situations where we can't do that. Or if it's something that potentially could be very expensive, like, oh, the HVAC is not cooling. Oh, it just needs Freon is what the seller says. Well, no, it may need a new evaporator coil. There's all kinds of other things that get very expensive it could be. So we want to stay away from that. And then we would ask the sellers to repair it, provide the receipts. Let's talk about insurance. You will be selecting insurance during the loan process, the underwriting process. Not all insurance providers are equal. Prices can vary so much depending on deductibles and the type of policy. The only thing I would tell you there is get multiple estimates, right? Quotes, and never ever get a cash value.
And to touch on that too, like when I see a contract come in, I have an insurance broker that I use for my house. And he shops around to get multiple quotes for you. You're free to use whoever you want. But the second I see that contract come in, I send him over a request. So that way he starts working. So that way you have some other options. Because a lot of my
Yeah.
clients, especially military, will just jump to USAA. I found
No,
they're either very cheap or they're very expensive. There's no in between with them. Again, some people are just super loyal to them, which is fine. But I do always give you other options as well because your insurance can play a huge impact. I mean, if you're find a policy that's $600 cheaper, I mean that's $50 a month. Like that adds up.
absolutely. So let me bring this screen up. Tyler, let's talk about final financing and clear to close. Why don't you break that down for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I talked about earlier, really my goal to try to do as have as little conditions for you as possible. Because when I go through, I review everything. Again, I try to like think like an underwriter, so that way I know like, oh, this is kind of iffy. I know they're going to ask about this. Let's just jump in front of it and submit it an initial underwrite. So basically, when we get a contract, that's when I take all the documents that you've sent me and I send it directly to the underwriter. They usually, depending on which lender we send it with, they can be reviewed same day. Sometimes it takes a couple of days. But they'll go through and they'll review everything we uploaded and they'll go and they will let us know, conditions. Those are basically, hey, Tyler, I need some clarification on this. Conditions, completely normal part of it. Again, I try to minimize those for you so there's not too much that we need to do. But sometimes they ask for stupid things like, oh, there's this house that you owned in New Jersey 20 years ago. Do you still have ownership? I need a letter from you saying that you don't. Just stupid things like that sometimes pop up when they search your name. Because again, there's lots of people who try to fraud the system. So they put a lot of extra steps in there on the back end side to just make sure that someone's not buying a house using someone else's identity. And so we'll go through, and me and my processor will work directly with you to try to get all of those conditions cleared as quickly as we can. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 rounds to go through. Usually there's the initial set of conditions. We get those, send them in. Now, usually the second round is that's all it takes for to submit for the final review. But again, sometimes in hairier situations where there's lots of layers to the onion, sometimes there may be 3 rounds of underwriting essentially. But once we have everything, appraisal back, title's good, insurance is set up, and all those documents are submitted, we can do what's called a submit for clear to close. That means the final review that we've collected all the documents underwriter asked for, answered all of their questions. Everything still works as far as like the loan approval goes, and then they'll just do their final review and give you that CTC.
Hey, could you talk just for a second about, I don't know if people caught the broker part. You're a broker, your insurance agent's a broker. Would you break that down so they understand the difference between them dealing with you and like
Yeah,
Veterans United?
absolutely. So there's lots of different types of lenders. There's banks, there's credit unions, there's retail lenders, there's mortgage brokers. I want what's best for you, so I've always been a mortgage broker, and basically what that means is I shop around for you on your behalf to get you the best deal. So instead of like if you go to your bank, they're going to have guidelines of rules that they will lend to you, like, hey, you need a 660 credit score and your DTI cannot be more than 50%. For example, on a VA loan, those are not VA requirements. That's just the bank saying we don't want like to give you a loan unless you meet those, and if you don't meet those, you can kick rocks. That's essentially what that is. Um, Now, on the broker side, I have a multitude of, I think we have like 50 different lenders that we can shop around with to make sure you get the best deal, but all those different lenders have different rules. For example, I have one lender who's like, uses the best technology. I can close you in like 2 weeks. I have one lender that can go down to a 500 credit score. I have one lender that has no minimum credit score. So I have all these different lenders to make sure I can provide you with all the tools, whether it's a VA loan or you're trying to buy an investment property, but you have no income, I can still find a way to help you. And so there's all these different programs that I have. But the biggest part, like I said, is to make sure that I am able to shop around the rates for you because the wholesale lenders vary their pricing all based on the type of volume that they're seeing. For example, if lender A really wants more VA business, they're going to lower their VA pricing to try to incentivize us brokers to send them loans. If lender B is backed up in their VA department, they're going to jack up their rates to make sure lender brokers don't really send them deals. And so again, it's just not my job to give you one rate because if I was just giving you one, it's take it or leave it versus my job to try to find out what's going to be the best deal for you based on the timeline, the products, and all that stuff. And so that's really the biggest difference is to make sure that I work for you to get you the best deal. And the biggest question I always get is, well, Tyler, what's that cost? We don't charge you any commission because a lot of those wholesale lenders that we send the loans to, you can't call them directly. You can't go online and apply with them. They only go through brokers like us. And so they cover all of my commission. Just like the sellers usually cover Keith's commission, there's going to be no added cost to you for those. And so, yes, there's no extra fee for me to work on your behalf. Again, just like Keith, I'm a fiduciary to you.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons I really like brokers and I like Tyler. And even on the insurance side, I like dealing with brokers because they
Yeah.
have so much more flexibility and that's what we need to get deals done. We need flexibility. So let's kind of move on to final walkthrough and closing. And that's where what to expect on a final walkthrough. We're going to do a final walkthrough either the morning of closing or the evening before, the day before. We're going to make sure all the repairs have been done. We're going to know that even before we do the walkthrough, but just visually see, just because they gave us a receipt, I want to see with my own eyes that they fixed this or that. Taken out that's supposed to convey with the property. As far as the closing goes, Generally speaking, the seller picks the title company because they're usually paying the title policy to you. And the title policy is kind of your insurance, not kind of, it is. It's your insurance that you have a clean title to the deed. Always make sure you have a valid ID, driver's license, military ID, or
Passport.
passport. Funding and transfer of ownership, how that happens. So just because you've signed does not mean you own the house. So after everybody signs, all the documents go back to the lender to be verified. The lender gives funding approval, and that's when things are dispersed and funded, and that's when you'll get your keys. Usually it's the same day.
And what happens a lot of the times too is if, let's say, you have closing at noon, a lot of the times we're going to go ahead and most loans, we're going to send our wire for the loan before you even get there. So that way the title company has all the funds they need. And on some loans too, we even give them funding authorization without us reviewing everything. And so sometimes they can do what's called a table fund to where you get the keys right at the closing table and you can walk in straight into your new house. So that happens. Or sometimes title companies don't do that and they are a little bit slower. And sometimes you have to go out to eat or something, and then you could come back and get your keys.
Absolutely. I've done many deals where Tyler's the lender when I'm representing buyers, and I walk in, the title officer's like, "Oh, we already got their wire, so we just need to get documents verified from the lender and approved, and we're on our way." A couple things are going to happen after you close, it's funded, everything's dispersed, is the title company's going to get that deed recorded with the county in which you buy the property. As soon as you get your driver's license, either you or your spouse has a driver's license with the new address of your home. Part of my process is to send you a homestead exemption. If you're a disabled vet, I send you the disabled vet exemption, help you fill it out, costs nothing. And once that deed's recorded and you have a driver's license, you go file the homestead. In fact, our homestead just got increased Tuesday to 140,000 off the county assessed value. So that is huge. So if you buy a $300,000 house, you're only paying taxes on 160 on the school portion, which is 80% of the property tax, by the way. It's a big deal. And it gives you a lot of legal protection. I just went on a listing appointment, I will tell you, for you folks who are thinking about buying. Awesome couple, active duty Marine. They bought a house 3 years ago in New Braunfels. I go look at it and I'm like, why is your payment so high? Because we were looking at doing a VA assumption because they don't have much equity and the builder's still building, so that's going to be their competition. But they have I don't know, a 4.25 interest rate or something, really low rate. So I thought we can do this VA assumption, but their payment was about $400 higher than it should have been. And a couple things I noticed as I dug into their file. The county had their house 700 square foot bigger than it really is, and they never filed a homestead because they bought it from the builder without representation from a real estate professional. And nobody ever mentioned homestead.
Yep, I was working on a refinance for someone right now to get their rate a whole percent lower. And I looked at their mortgage. I'm like, why are you guys paying all this? I pulled up their property on the county website and I saw, hey, like there's no homestead. They're like, oh, we didn't know about this. And they weren't former clients of mine. They just found me from a referral from someone to get
Yeah.
their rate lower. But I was like, guys, like you're paying $400 more a month. This is a $600,000 home. Like this isn't a small discount. Like you've been paying $400,000, I mean, 400 more a month for 3 years.
A lot of people don't know this. Most of the counties will go retro 2 years. In
Yep.
other words, if you go in and file it and say, "Hey, I didn't know I could do this," I just had that those clients, New Braunfels, just did it, and not only did they get a retro, now they're going back to their mortgage company and getting an audit, an escrow audit, and they're going to get a bunch of money back, and their payment's going to drop a bunch, and it's going to help us sell it as a VA assumption because it's going to have the proper payment amount instead of being $400 higher than it should be. So
Exactly.
that's the difference between working with somebody who's just after a commission and somebody who really cares about you and how purchasing a home and owning a home affects you and your life and your family and your family's life. So let's look at some next steps real quick. You got anything else you want to say about that, Tyler?
No, I think we've covered a good amount of stuff.
So what are the next steps? I'm going to send you the Ultimate Home Buyer's Guide. Just let me just show that to you real. I'll show it to you after we get off this slide. Make sure you schedule your free no obligation consultation with myself. There's my phone number. My email's in there as well. Schedule a call with Tyler to get a pre-approval and find out what your budget is, what you're comfortable with. If he says, "Oh, you're pre-qualified for," I mean, I don't remember what you pre-qualified us for when we bought our house, but it was like two or 300,000 more than we spent. And there's nothing wrong with that. To have that flexibility to know that if I want to buy that more expensive home, I have the flexibility to do it. Neither he nor me or my wife are going to pressure you to spend more than you want to. I do want you to know that. And if you have any questions at all, you can go to our website or you can call me on that number I showed you. But let me show you this real quick. I want to show you the home buyer's guide. Just to show you real quick, it's 26 pages. I have trimmed it down a little bit, but it gives you the table of contents. It gives you the roadmap. Everything we've talked about here, it's laid out here in 14 steps. Talks about me and my wife, who we are, our mission, our vision, our values, our promise, the new real estate rules. Let's talk about that for just a second. As of August of 2024, what we used to do in real estate was do what's called a broker co-op. If I was a listing agent, I would negotiate my commission and the buyer's commission at the time of listing the house. You can still do that, but you can't advertise in the MLS to the other agents what that commission is. They have to contact you if they're interested in the property and whatnot. We do not do that. When I'm listing a house, we do it as a seller credit at closing. Everybody selling their house right now did not pay a commission, more than likely 99% when they bought that house. So as far as I'm concerned right now, I'm asking the seller to pay my fee. And whatever the seller's paying is what we collect. We don't come back to you and go, "Oh, we always get 3%. They're only paying 2.5. We want you to pay the other half." Now, there's realtors that do that. That is not how my wife and I operate our business. So, and that'll be in a buyer representation agreement. We spell all that out. The buying process, again, this is a great tool to like have it in front of you to like read through. And if you want a hard copy, we do spiral bound versions that are really nice that I will be happy to mail to you if you don't want just the digital. Frequently asked questions about the home inspector. There's a home inspector questions I was talking about. There's 10 of them. About the home appraisal, homeowner association's final walkthrough, closing day, move-in checklist, things you need to be thinking about. That's that. So we're super excited you joined the webinar, and you have any questions at all, there is no dumb question.
And that's what I tell people all the time. It's like, look, like I would much rather you ask me 1,000,002 questions throughout the process to make sure you feel comfortable and confident than to just like, oh, I don't want to annoy Tyler, or this may seem like a dumb question I don't want to ask and I'm embarrassed. Like no, I want you to ask. Even if it's like, what color is the sky, Tyler? Well, most likely blue. I will not judge you for
Let
your
me
question.
look out the window.
Yeah, to make sure that you feel comfortable. There's no question that's too big or too small. I just want you to feel comfortable.
Absolutely. We're the same way. We live by the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. And we're not going to treat you any different than we would want somebody to treat us. Now, are we capable of making mistakes? Absolutely. And if I make a mistake, I'm going to own it, I'm going to apologize, and I'm going to fix it. That's just that's the way it works. That's the way Tyler works. You have a lot of choices out there. I will tell you, if for some reason maybe you're in a market where we can't help you, I would love to help you find a good realtor, because here's the reality. About 8% of us do 92% of the business. And not that if you sell a lot of houses it makes you a better realtor, but it does make you more
Experience.
competent because of the experience of writing contracts, amendments, addendums, notices, negotiating, dealing with lenders, title companies.
And on the flip side of things too, if we're talking about VA loans, for example, it's like a very small percentage of the actual like housing market and loans people use. And so it's not a very like not everybody is an expert at them. I
Yeah,
mean, I it's about 85% of my business, and I mean I'm closing 10, 11 of them this month alone. Most people don't close 10 or 11 in multiple years
right.
when they're just a loan officer. And so it's very important to work with folks that do what you're looking to accomplish, because nobody's going to turn away business. You could go ask the newest real estate agent that just got their license yesterday, said, "Hey, I'm a veteran and I want to buy a house. Can you help me?" They're going to say absolutely, because they're not going to turn it away. But I guarantee they know, unless they have a mentor that's walking them through everything, they're not going to know what to look for. And so it's very important to work with people that do what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. And feel free to go check out either of our Google reviews. That's not the brags tell you. You go read those reviews. People tell you exactly how we treat our clients. Tyler, thanks, brother, for being on here. And thanks for your support. And to y'all who are watching the webinar, we are here. Just ask questions. I'm going to at the bottom here is our phone numbers and our emails. And just reach out. If you don't want to call, just email and ask your questions. And there's no obligation. We're here to educate and empower. And, hopefully you use us. If you don't, wish you the best. Have a blessed and awesome day. And we'll talk to you soon.